All right, I'd now like to welcome on a very special guest from the transfer portal and No Context CFB. It is Liam Blutman. Liam, what's up?
Howdy, Blake. How are you doing, man? Long time dude, last time we talked, I don't remember the good stuff we said. I don't remember us praising Washington and bashing SC a little. I remember the Fresno State call and the Tulane call.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's why I remember. So today we'll avenge those poor predictions and we'll do some good week 7 stuff. I'm really glad to be talking with you again because like I said, it's been a while. It's been a long while. The season has flown by. There's been a lot to dissect.
yeah. So you came on preseason. We talked group of five, talked a ton of different stuff, and now it's kind of where I wanted to start. Is last time we talked was preseason, and now after this weekend will be the halfway point of the regular season, which is
Crazy.
crazy. It's insane. I feel like we've had like just kind of gotten going in terms of gotten some really great big games, but obviously still got a huge weekend this weekend. I got my Penix sweatshirt on, ready for the game of the year. Pac-12 supremacy one last time before the conference is gone forever. In my opinion, two of the five best teams in the country in Oregon and Washington. So I can't wait. We're going to talk about the game. I saved it for last on our run sheet because I wanted to have it be like college game day. Save the big game that you're there for the last one to talk about. Maybe Corso will come out with the Washington head on at the end of the episode. We'll see. But as we reach about at the halfway point of the season, it's been a really interesting season in college football going into the year. We talked about how it could be a season with more parity than we had seen in a long time because of transfer portal and NIL and all these different things, and also the quarterback changes at Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State and all these kind of top teams. We're kind of in flux, but as we sit here going it's a weird season because it feels like there has been a lot of parity, but then you look one,
Yeah.
two, three in the country is Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and you're like, oh, yeah, we've seen this before. And obviously, Michigan or Ohio State, one of those teams is going to get knocked off. Maybe both teams if Penn State has something to say about it. But where do you kind of see just the national landscape as we're halfway through the season?
I think that was the key thing is it does feel like a very even playing field because it is. And it does feel like there's been a good amount of parity. But then you look at the top 25, you look at the top teams, like, yeah, same old, same old. Albeit, should Ohio State be number 3? Ain't no way that team should be
No,
number 3. People who
especially
actually
what we've
watch
seen
football.
from
Yeah. Well,
what we've seen
that
from Notre Dame the last couple of weeks has basically brought that win from here down to here.
that win handed to
Yeah,
you
which
on a
shouldn't have even been a
literal
win,
silver.
exactly.
That's the annoying thing with me with Notre Dame too, is that they went out there, they lost to Ohio State, the game that they should have won, and they beat Duke in the game that they should have lost. And I mean, I could talk about the Louisville game, which I'm now 3 straight podcasts in a row that I've been on, and comparing Notre Dame's last 3 weeks to a tennis player in a 3 tournament stretch, getting knocked down in the quarters as the win they should have had, losing a tie break, and that's the loss to Ohio State. Win a tournament very emotionally, and that's that, close calls, survive it. That's how you beat Duke, and then third tournament, you're out there in the first, second round getting smoked by an inferior opponent because of all the emotional toll you've had. You're lethargic now. Notre Dame did look lethargic, but to get back to it, people that watch this sport, you and I and several others, possibly only a handful, are well aware. We're very cognizant of the fact that there ain't no way Ohio State is a top 3, top 5 team in this sport. There's just no way. So honestly, man, I think that that's been the theme of my thoughts all season. Is the ranking has just been such a joke, and it's evident every single year. But I think in a year like this, where it is so even, and we are all watching. We think that we're all watching these games happen. These teams showcase their best efforts, and then we see their flaws and this and that. But it feels like the AP top 25 and other people who do their rankings, whether it's by themselves or with other friends and stuff, like it just for a season where there is so much even play and there's supposed to be parity, everyone feels like they've got the same rankings. Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to like take Georgia out of number one when they won back-to-back national championships
It
and
is,
don't
but that
lose a
shouldn't
game.
matter.
But up until last week, they kind of finally started to turn it on against Kentucky, but they did not look like anywhere near the best team in the country before that. And Michigan's been dominant, but is the best team Michigan has played Rutgers? Is that the best team they've played? Minnesota, I guess, but
Dude,
Minnesota's not
what a
looking like it.
disaster Minnesota is. I was
So,
wrong on that one, and I'm wearing a Minnesota shirt right now. That's bad. Bad for me.
um, so yeah, we still don't really know what Michigan is. We won't really know what Michigan is until their last three games of the season are Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, their three hardest games or three games in a row to end the
Yeah.
season. And Ohio State, we won't really know until they play Penn State. And Penn State, we don't really know until they play Ohio State and Michigan. Like there are all these teams that just haven't really played tough games yet, and which
Which
makes it
makes it
harder.
worse that makes
And
it worse that this is what the top 25 looks like, though, because
yeah,
we've seen Ohio State, and they didn't deserve to beat Notre Dame. They got out coached in that one, and Freeman didn't even coach a good game. Like Ryan Day is just a flat out bad football coach. He's a terrible play caller, and it's evident every single week. The only good play Ohio State has had all season was that effort against Western Kentucky where we saw McCord throw a deep ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. and just open the floodgates, and then they were playing with mojo and confidence. So what I think for Ohio State is Ryan Day needs to get McCord, because I think I've opened my eyes to McCord, and like he's one heck of a quarterback in crunch time and everything, but I've kind of realized he's a very streaky kind of quarterback, and he desperately needs to get in rhythm and just have that mojo going, and he gets that after he connects with Marvin Deep, like, and then he'll just thrive after that. So it's like, if I'm Ryan Day, which golly, I hope I never have to be, dude, you need to call an early deep ball to set the tone for that offense, to get McCord in a rhythm. And for him not to have done that, especially against Maryland, where things were terrible in the first, Maryland team is not very good. Like I just don't get it. Whereas with Michigan and Georgia, at the very least, I couldn't care less about what happened in 2019, 20, 21, 22. Like, I just do not care. It does not matter. We're talking about 2023. Let's focus on this season and what's on the plate there. The last 2 weeks were the first weeks that I could say all season that there's been any reason to be impressed with Georgia and Michigan. Michigan against inferior opponents, which they've played all 6 games, have been very inferior opponents. It has to be, it's one of the worst, like easiest 5 schedules out there for a Power 5 team in the country right now,
now
along
they
with
have Indiana this
Maryland.
week.
Yeah, like
Indiana this week at
at the
home.
very least, Michigan the last 2 weeks did not play with their food. They ate everything on the plate, and they went out there and dominated on the road. So at least I can respect that. You got great team efforts, complete efforts, just really good solid play. That's fine. Ohio State has not done that one time aside from the Western Kentucky outburst. Georgia finally showed reasons to impress. They were not very good against South Carolina. They were not very good against the inferior opponents that they played, like a UT Martin. Finally, the Auburn win, people want to act like it wasn't a good win. I thought that was a really good win, and that's the best win that's on their schedule. I don't care about the Kentucky win. That was very expected. Kentucky's not that good of a team. They should never have been ranked in the top 25. Speaking of easy schedules up to this point, aside from a Georgia loss, Kentucky's schedule was garbage. Georgia's win against Auburn was super impressive. The adjustments that they made in the second half were elite. They took away the quarterback run game. They were getting gashed on the edges in the run game. They took that away. They figured it out. Carson Beck, that's his first true road start. That's a tough environment to play in, and they're facing adversity. They almost turned the ball over on the first 2 plays in the second half. There was nothing going their way in that game. And then they have the cheat code in Brock Bowers. Ban him. Don't ban the tush push. Ban Brock Bowers because he ain't fair. Georgia's win against Auburn was very impressive. I don't know why people are trying to take that away from them. Like, again, that win to me, Georgia's win at Auburn, is far more impressive than the beatdown of an awful and extremely overrated Kentucky team that got ranked because they walloped that Florida team. I mean, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So I went well too on here, but like that's the point of this is look at what you're watching. Don't just look at the box score. Evaluate what's happening. And AP voters just don't be doing that, man. Like you said very early on, Washington and Oregon are two of the best 5 teams in the country. The Pac-12 is seen as the best conference out there, the most elite conference. The rankings of the AP and Josh Pate and insert ranker here do not reflect that. They don't reflect that Oregon and Washington are the best teams in the country. They don't reflect that the Pac-12 is the best conference in the country. So then why are we saying these things and not backing it up? It doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. So that's where my thoughts were. Sorry for ranting.
No, it's fine. I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think there's way too much weight being put into what happened last year or the last 5 years, and also just what like preseason predictions of like how good this team would be. There's just too much weight going into that, and obviously there's a ton of games still to play. Some of these teams are going to end up getting exposed.
Yeah.
And some of them, like Georgia's probably not. Georgia's going to roll through the rest of their schedule. They're going to play. Who knows now in the SEC West in the SEC championship game? It looks like Alabama at this point is still going to end up winning it.
It might not look like that in 2 weeks.
If LSU beats Alabama, LSU still somehow has a path to win the SEC West. The whole thing's
a bad division. It's just a
disaster.
bad division, but the SEC brand isn't going to let people think that. Like, it's just a really bad division this season.
Yeah, I tweeted it last weekend, which of course LSU ended up coming back and winning the game against Missouri, which Missouri, that was embarrassing second half for them. But
yeah,
I was saying that because LSU was ranked number 23 after maybe having the worst defense in the entire country. And I was like, oh, this loss to Missouri is going to drop them to 24 because they're just going to be like, well, it's still LSU. I mean, we'll drop them from 23 to 24.
I mean, that defense it's jarring to witness how bad it is. And I talked a lot of smack on the offensive end. I talked a lot of smack about Jane Daniels, and I wasn't a believer in him. And both you and I were like, lying to see Nussmeier. Jane Daniels deserves to probably be in the top 3 or 4 of the Heisman conversation. Those aren't words I ever thought I would utter. This LSU team could lose 4 games this season, and if Jane Daniels continues to play at this rate, he would have one of those. He should be at the very top of a Heisman list. Like he's just been that good. He's progressed that much in his game. The deep balls that he's been throwing, balls to the end zone, it's just pristine ball placement. Like you can't draw it up any better. It's as precise as CJ Stroud at Ohio State, just dropping it in a bucket and letting his incredible receivers just sure-handed make a play. I cannot believe what we're seeing with Jane Daniels, and to ruin that explosion because of how bad their defense is, it's crazy. And Brian Kelly will never take accountability, but whatever.
No, it's been because I was not a Jaden Daniels believer. I still think he didn't play his best game against Florida State week 1, made a couple
the
bad mistakes
really got to him.
Yeah,
the pass rush.
But since then, he's played out of his mind, honestly. And he's been the very last thing on that team that has been the problem, which I thought it would be the opposite. So, credit to him. I think he definitely is on pace to be a Heisman finalist at this point. But we could talk about
games, and the voter won't up because he lost games. Well, it wasn't his fault, and we're not actually. It's a whole nother thing. The Heisman isn't actually going to the best player, but whatever. Vote for
Yeah, just
Brock
wait
Bowers,
till Brock
cowards.
Bowers isn't a
Yeah.
finalist. That's gonna be funny.
Oh, not getting into that. Not getting into that. We have
No, we
week
could talk
7 to
about
talk about.
a million different things, but we're mostly here to talk about this weekend. It's a really good slate of games. We were talking just before we started recording about how so many of these big games are basically coin flips. Like even if when you look at those spreads, they're 2.5, 3, 3.5. Like none of them are. Sometimes you look at the big game of the weekend is like the Ole Miss Alabama game, and it's like, yeah, it's a big game, but Alabama's still like 7.5 point favorite. Like it's not that close. All these games are super close. So just looking at what game we are most excited for this weekend. Anybody who follows anything I do knows the answer is Oregon Washington. It's probably the game everybody's looking forward to the most, but especially my love for Washington. So that's kind of a boring answer. So I'm giving a second answer. And I'm going with JMU Georgia Southern. This is a game I'm really excited about. JMU is undefeated. They've been not entirely convincing in a lot of their games, but their defense is totally legit. Their defensive line is a power five defensive line, a power five front seven. And it's a team that I really like. And then Georgia Southern, their only loss was to Wisconsin. And they've looked really good. The winner of this game will be in first place in the East, in the Sun Belt East. Georgia Southern has a top 10 passing offense. They've totally kind of revolutionized their offense. And both of these teams are just really exciting teams to watch and kind of have completely conflicting styles. And so really anything could happen in this game. So I think that's going to be a low key, very exciting game to watch.
Always down for some fun belt, man. I wish it was on weeknight. I really wish it was on weeknight, but what can you
I
do?
know it belongs on a weeknight.
I've complained about this slate, like the schedule, the timing. Oh my gosh, man. Obviously, I can name Oregon Washington as like the game I'm most excited about. It is, but I mean that'd be boring to nominate. And you also had a backup. I've come with two backups. They're lesser regarded games. Again, that slate where we're starting at like 4 Pacific, there are so many good games going on, and that's really unfortunate because the after dark window is pretty slim. It really only has San Diego State, Hawaii kicking off at 8 Pacific, and Montana, Idaho in the FCS 7:30 Pacific on ESPN2. That's a game I'm really looking forward to. Anytime that the FCS gets its national spotlight, it is very good. I think one of the best games last season. I think the majority of people that watch college football would agree one of the best games all of the college football last season was Incarnate Word beating Sac State 66-63 in the playoffs. That was a banger. That was late night national television. Everyone loved it. There were players drinking beer during the game after scoring a touchdown, and not drinking it, but like splashing on his face, whatever. These games are crazy environments, and now we're getting a really solid Montana team who's kind of slipped up after losing in Northern Arizona. Their coach has had some really weird interviews. Bobby Hauck has had some really weird interviews. He was very dismissive of Idaho about last year's game that Idaho won, saying they only made 2 plays all game. So he said, I actually need to find this quote again. He said something really weird about passing offense or something, or passing yards. Let me find this quote. Do we still have it? Yeah, passing yards are empty calories.
Well, I
I
don't know what that means.
don't know what that means either, but Coach Hauk said it. So he's been very dismissive of this Idaho team. And we're getting the Kibby Dome national TV after dark. Going to be an electric environment. I'm certain it's sold out. It'll probably be over capacity. Idaho, I think, might just be the most fun team. It's without a doubt the most fun team in all the FCS. you can make an argument for it being a top 3 fun team in all the country, including the FBS. With Kochek, Javon McCoy, Hayden Haddon, who really does it all and plays in a reminiscent role to what Cooper Kupp was doing at Eastern Washington, where it's just he's the best player on the field. Use him in as many ways as possible, whether it's going downfield, catching a jump ball, running a 6 slant, just going after a catch and carving up a defense, or taking an end round, throwing a pass downfield. Like Hayden Haddon truly does it all. Like fine, McCoy is elite. He and them, Giovanni and Hayden are the best 1-2 punch. They're the top quarterback, top receiver in all the FCS. So that's a game that people should watch. And I'll just keep it short and sweet here. And that night slate, man, where you have SC, Notre Dame, you have Miami, UNC, Mizzou, Kentucky, UCLA, Oregon State, Auburn, LSU. There's just too many good games. Now you throw Arizona, Wazoo on Pac-12 Network instead of the After Dark slate. That's garbage. Nonetheless, Wyoming Air Force. How can you not be looking forward to this game? I think Air Force might just be the best team in all the group of 5. I would put them. I think right now it's Air Force, James Madison, who of course isn't eligible for nothing. Way to go, NCAA, and Tulane. I think that those are the best teams in the group 5 right now. And I think Air Force truly has the path to make it to the New Year's 6 and rep the group of 5. This Air Force offense is disgusting how explosive it is. And people will see they only scored 13 against Sam Houston. I think that's just credit to Sam Houston and what that defense is capable
Unreal.
of, which is remarkable to think about. But Air Force's offense is just nasty. The trunk plays that they pick up have 96 guys capable of running that rock for over 5 yards a carry. Zach Larrier, their quarterback, he's just a track star, and he orchestrates that offense at such a high level. Just runs the offense so smoothly. They're well coached, of course. Their defense has some headhunters, and of course, like really, really, really like Wyoming as well. John Hoyt, future NFL kicker, but this is a spot for Air Force to just go out and thrive and showcase their game, and it's going to fly under the radar because of the slate that they're in, but those that are aware and are watching are going to realize Air Force is legit. They should be ranked in the top 25. Voters are tripping. They're smoking crack. What's new? This Air Force team is elite. And I'm very excited for them as these weeks pick on for more people to realize how good this team is and start tweeting about them more. And it's been nice to see people tweet me the last few weeks, like their Air Force spread slips and like, hey, these guys are free money. I've been betting them because of seeing your tweets. Like, it's just a wagon. They're a wagon.
Yeah, they're awesome. And yeah, Wyoming, I picked Wyoming to upset Fresno State last week. Fresno State was
That was easy.
a fraudulent, undefeated team going into Laramie where weird things already happened. That was the easiest upset pick of last weekend. I wish the game was in Laramie again.
Was ranked.
I know. Yeah, Air Force is awesome. I do think they'll win that game, but it should be awesome to watch. And speaking of Sam Houston State, really quick, to this episode is going to come out. This game will have already happened, but are they getting their first FBS win tonight against New Mexico State?
You were kind of talking about spreads earlier and how low they are and the coin flip stuff. I mean, the spread only being New Mexico State 3.5 here kind of says a lot. I do like the Bearcats to win tonight. I'll take them. Why not? I want to see them get.
I think I'm going to.
Their defense has been playing at such an elite level, and the last few weeks, I think that we've seen really promising efforts from them. They were solid in the Jacksonville State game, and they just let it. They just let it go. It happens. Whatever. They were really good against Liberty. They shut down their defense in the second half. And I think that we've seen enough flashes from their offense. They're very small flashes, but we've seen some good stuff from them. So why not? Why can't they go out there and beat New Mexico State tonight in like a 2017 kind of game? I'm all for it, and I feel pretty bad for that team and their fans, the program, because they had to see James Madison and the success that they had, blistering hot start in the FBS last season. Now they have to, and of course, like App State and Coastal, et cetera, in the last few years, but now they have to be in the same conference as a fellow first-year FBS team, Jacksonville State, who is on, like, how good Rich Rod has that team playing at. unreal to think about as well. So I feel really bad for Bearcats that they have to go look at Jacksonville State having that level of success, and they're just out here week after week fighting their butts off, playing really competitive games, and they're just never on the right side of it. So yeah, I hope tonight's the night.
Yeah, their defense is awesome, and last couple of weeks the offense has finally started to show something. So again, if you're listening to this game already happened. So hopefully the Cats took care of business. But looking at the players we're most excited to watch this weekend, I went with one obvious one. It could have gone Penix, obviously, but I instead went with Roma Dunze. I think he is an even bigger X factor than Penix. I think Penix, we know what he's going to do. He's basically been perfect for 2 years straight and hasn't really had a bad game. But I think against this Oregon team, I think the defense is tough. It's not going to be easy for Washington, even though they've made it look easy against everybody they've played so far this year. And I think Rome is just going to have to go off. And luckily, Jalen McMillan is going to be back. He's missed the last couple games, but he is going to be ready to play this weekend, which should help having the second member of their duo, the best wide receiver duo in college football, in my opinion. And I think Rome Odunze is going to go off. I think he's going to have a monster game. I think this is going to kind of put him on that level, like Michael Penix now is the Heisman favorite. He's finally kind of getting the love and the hype that he should have been getting last season and still kind of flew under the radar, even though he led FBS in passing yards last year. He still kind of flew under the radar. He's finally getting the love. And now I think this game on the national stage with College Game Day is going to take Rome Odunze to that level as well. And then I picked second player, a little more under the radar, and that is Byron Brown, the quarterback at South Florida. Dual threat quarterback is just incredibly exciting to watch. They have a really big game this weekend against FAU, the battle of those Florida teams. Always exciting. That should be a close game. Exciting game to watch. And Alex Galesh, who was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee last year, is now the head coach there. He's building something really exciting, and in the offense they have there has been really exciting to watch. So if you have time, and again the loaded slate of games to tune into that South Florida FAU game, that should be a really exciting one to watch.
Yeah, I like those calls. For mine, I'll start with the group of five guy that I've tweeted about a lot. So if you follow me on Twitter, you're not really going to learn anything here. But if you're a consistent viewer of Blake's show and you haven't seen my tweets play, then maybe you will learn something. Ashton Jeanty is just must-see TV every single week, and he's got a really prime game start time at 6:45 Pacific. So, weird start, Fox Sports 1. And he gets to play against Colorado State defense that he can really take advantage of. He fumbled twice last week. Never thought I would utter those words. This is a complete back. I think he's one of the best 5 running backs in the country, and I don't think it's up for any debate at all. What he could do in the receiving game is just so innate. I've showed his just clips here and there to NFL draft guys like Trevor Sikkema, who just immediately Sikkema was in awe of his body control and what this kid is the real deal. I've written plenty about him. I've tweeted plenty about him. Like I've said, just watch Ashton GT this week, and you'll realize like there are not 5 running backs better than him in the sport, and he's a prime candidate to transfer up to another school after the season and really bolster and secure some really good NFL draft capital in 2025. And then another player to watch at the Power 5 level. Man, there's so many good players to watch, dude. Man, who should I pick? Yeah, I don't know who to pick. There's so many good players to watch.
Too many good players, too many good games.
There are, man. Like I want to pick someone from Oregon, Washington, but it's just kind of boring. Dude, I really don't know where I'm gonna go. There's just so much. I'm gonna go with I'll go with Deontay Lawson on Alabama, I suppose. Kind of a boring pick because he's someone else I've talked so much about. I think he's a surefire like NFL linebacker that's going to have plenty of attention going his way in the next few years as he's killing in the NFL. But right now, dealing with injury and still playing a very good uh, role at Alabama. He is the heart and soul of a really vaunted Alabama defense that is scary to play against. I mean, you look Dallas Turner and Caleb Daniels, Malachi Moore, and Deontay Lawson's just in there at the middle linebacker, letting his IQ radiate. He's very cognizant of everything that's going on, and not only is he just such an intelligent player, he is a monster, a big hitter, a secure tackler. Like he is an extremely underrated pass rusher. I just have an extreme joy watching Deontay Lawson play ball every week, and I'll play against Arkansas this week. So, we'll see how he does though. Tracking down KJ Jefferson and putting KJ into a mental pretzel.
Yeah, I like those picks. And yeah, we've talked a lot, but we can now just get into the games. I wanted to pick one Friday night game, group of five game, and that is Tulane. Team we were talking about is maybe you could definitely make the argument that they're the best team in the group of five, definitely in the top group. But this is a huge game for them going to Memphis. Always weird things happen when you go play at Memphis. Um, they are the only teams in the AAC that are 4-1. It's a bit of a down year for the AAC overall, but these two teams are playing well. Both of them, their only losses against SEC teams in close games. Memphis played Missouri close, and Tulane played Ole Miss close with their backup quarterback until Lane decided to pull away late and run up the score. Um, and I think this game should be really exciting. I was not, like you said, we were not really Tulane believers going into this season, and they've proved everybody wrong. But I do think this is a really tough spot for them. I'm a Seth Hennigan believer. I think he can play terrible and throw like four interceptions, but then he'll have another game where he looks like the man. And so I'm actually picking Memphis in this game. I think they win the game outright, and I have bet them plus 3.5. I think they cover the spread. And if I had to pick, I'm picking them outright in this game.
Yeah, I like that. For our transfer portal CFB picks, doing it outright, I also took Memphis. I wanted to kind of be in the minority of the 20-ish picks that we have. And I like you said, weird things happen. I vividly remember the end of the Navy Memphis game and the chain gang robbing Navy. They could do that again against Tulane. Why not? I am taking Memphis outright in this one. I think the 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, whatever number you could get, because I think it is up to 4.5 now.
Yeah.
I think Memphis with the points is a very safe bet. Sprinkling the money line ain't a bad thing to do either. I think the matchup to watch here, fascinating one between Blake Watson, him being just a do it all back. His receiving ability, much like GT's, is just so natural, and he's just so dang good in the open space, and he's tough to tackle. But you have a Tulane defense that has really impressed me with how quick they swarm to the ball, their closing speed, just how fast, strong, violent they are. So I think Tulane's defense against Blake Watson is just a marvelous matchup to watch. But yeah, I'm gonna roll with Memphis in that one. And even though I say this, and even though we were down on Tulane entering the season, if 2023 Tulane played 2022 Tulane, I think I might take 2023 Tulane. I think they might actually
Uh,
be a better all around team. I just don't. That's just how the sport works. Sometimes the season, the schedule doesn't line up. The relative level of success that the team could have isn't going to be the same. But if you put those two teams up against each other, I think I would lean to this Tulane team. I think their
yeah, they've
defense
been
is just
awesome.
more impressive.
But yeah, they've been awesome, but this is going to be a huge test. So everybody's going to be talking about Colorado because they're playing on Friday night, but that's the game I'm most looking forward to. Friday night is Tulane Memphis. We'll go to the Conference of Champions. Oregon and Washington getting obviously all the pub, but UCLA Oregon State is an awesome game in the Pac-12 this weekend. UCLA going to Oregon State, one of the hardest places to play in the country. And we saw the last time UCLA had to go to a super hostile environment against Utah. Dante Moore really struggled. The offense really struggled to do anything. It was one of the ugliest college football games ever played. The game was won on a pick six early in the game, and that was basically the whole thing. Hopefully, this game will be more exciting. I think it will be. DJU played awesome last week. He's really starting to come into his own in this Oregon State offense, which I thought he would. I thought they would be a really good team this year. I thought the kind of pressure that was on him at Clemson would be taken off. It's a more run heavy team, and he would really thrive, and he is so far. But also Dante Moore has been awesome. So I think this game should be really exciting. I think the key to this game is really just going to be whether Dante Moore can stay composed, not let the crazy environment, not let the pressure of the big game get to him, because that's pretty much been the only downside of his game is making some bad mistakes. We saw last week UCLA was by far the better team against Wazoo, but a couple of bad interceptions kept the game close when it shouldn't have been close at all. So that's going to be the key if UCLA wants to pull off the upset. He's not going to be able to make those bad mistakes because Oregon State's just going to run the ball. They're going to try to drain the clock, control the game. The crowd's going to be nuts. And so I'm going with Oregon State straight up. I think they do win the game at home. I think this is just a really, really tough place for a true freshman quarterback to go get a win on the road. But I do think it'll be an exciting game. I have not bet this game yet, but if I had to bet it, I would actually take the under 53.5. I think Oregon State is really just going to try to run the ball and completely control the game and just keep the ball out of the UCLA offense's hands. And I do think Dante Moore will struggle a bit, especially early on with the crowd. That crazy environment with their chainsaws in the crowd, I think could get to him a bit early. And I think he'll settle in and play much better than he did against Utah, but I still think it could be a lower scoring game that Oregon State wins by a bit.
Yeah, that was going to be my bet for this game as well. 53, 53 and a half, 54, whatever you get. I think that number is just set too high. I think it's a very big overreaction to Oregon State's last week's win against Cal. It was just I never thought I'd see 92 points in the Jonathan Smith Oregon State game, but it happened. I would take the under here. UCLA secondary, I think, is still suspect, but the defense is playing at an elite level. Coach Lynn's a star in the making, and UCLA's pass rush is really just able to generate so much consistent pressure and overwhelm pretty much every offensive line they've played, whether it's Washington State, who's got a solid one, Utah's got a good one, or like poor NC Central, poor Coastal. They've just overwhelmed them. And Latu is really like pretty much secured first round draft capital. It is very impressive to see what UCLA's pass rush could do, how they take the pressure off a secondary that I still think is the weakest point of that defense. And that matchup between UCLA's front seven and Oregon State's offensive line might be one of the best matchups to watch in all of college football this week. I think I'd easily put it up there top three. Again, that under is a nice play. Like Blake said, Oregon State's going to be committed to the run because of that fear due to UCLA's pass rush and due part to that. I hate two quarterback sets. I hate it. I hate playing two quarterbacks. I hate it. But what Jonathan Smith has done, inserting Aiden Childs into games, scripted third drive, it's the Childs drive. It is worked the best that I've seen for a two quarterback set. Like I don't know why. It's just working so well. And what it's done is Childs has come in. He's gotten valuable reps as a true freshman, and there's not much asked of him. There's not much pressure. It's just go out, play your game, kid. And he's looked pretty good doing it. He's has flashes and he's has downfall, but he's a true freshman. What are you going to do? Those mistakes are going to happen. It's valuable playing time for him. And whether Jonathan Smith realizes it or not, it's pretty good transfer portal tape that he'll have on display after a season if Oregon State doesn't get to move up in conference. And what it's done too. You spoke to how great DJU has been playing. When those scripted drives happen and DJ comes back in, he looks like a man possessed, a man that is looking for revenge, that is playing angry, looking to prove people wrong. It's something about those drives that really, those child scripted drives that really get to DJ and motivate him. And I think that that's very eye opening, and it's just it's very unique to see like that level of play unlocked. And all credit to Jonathan Smith for scripting this stuff up and figuring out like this gets the most out of DJ, and it's really good to see. And then, of course, on UCLA's end, like you said, true freshman Dante Moore. We all know he's a special talent. We all know he's going to be a first round pick. We all know he's going to be one of the stars in the sport soon enough. It's tough to play in Corvallis. It's tougher to play in Corvallis as a true freshman. We saw how tough it was for Caleb Williams to play in Corvallis last season. Like, it ain't easy to play here. And with Oregon State's defense kind of having some letdown performances in weeks past, they're going to make life really difficult on UCLA this week. I think UCLA is also going to lean heavy on the ground game. That really plays into that under, man. I think under 53 at 54, I think that's just there ain't no such thing as a lock, but I feel like that's as safe to a win as you could make inserting a bet on a Wednesday or Thursday and just waiting for it to hit on Saturday night. Like, this game has like 24-20 written all over it. This total
Mhm.
should be around 46.5.
Yeah, I agree. Just too high. I like the under. And yeah, that should be an awesome game to watch. Really interesting game in the ACC is Miami at UNC. UNC is a short 3.5 point favorite. Um, and this game for me basically comes down to one thing, and that is how will Miami respond after last week's game? Um, it was one of the worst losses in the history of college football, basically.
Yep.
I had bet Georgia Tech plus 20. I thought it was a good spot for them, and they kept the game close. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I had actually turned the game off before this play happened, and I'm really mad that I wasn't watching. But obviously saw the highlight, and it's one of the most baffling things I've ever seen, especially because when people ask me the question as like a betting person, like what's the worst beat you've ever had in your lifetime? It is 2018 Oregon Stanford. I was on Oregon in that game, and people point to the play where the fumble happened. That clip was going around again after this, but there was like a series of like 15 ridiculous events in that game that had to happen for that fumble to even matter. So that game just scars me. So seeing this happen again to Mario Cristobal just brought up some really bad memories for me. But it's insane. It's insane that that happened in his post game press conference. He was basically just like, "Yeah, my bad, inexcusable. I don't know why we did that." But he's proven time and time again that he, for some reason, just does not like taking knees. It lost them the game. Also, giving up a 50-yard touchdown as time expired, letting a receiver get over the top, also lost them the game, which was horrible. So, I mean, it's a crushing loss. It goes from this game between Miami and UNC being like, oh, the winner of this game is probably going to be the team that could go challenge Florida State and win the conference and maybe even be a dark horse college football playoff team. Like UNC's looked really, really good. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, Miami just lost in that fashion to Georgia Tech. And I think if Miami plays their best game, they could easily win. They could easily cover the 3.5. but I just don't know how they're going to respond. Like these are college kids, very emotional. The swings, the highs and lows get to them way more than professionals, which is why college football is so fun. Is those swings. So you just never know. They could use it as a rallying point to be like, we can't let that happen. We got to go prove ourselves on a big stage, or they could just be crushed. So I'm picking UNC in this game. I just can't trust Miami. I think UNC's offense has been great, and they're going to continue to be great. And their defense has been better than I thought it would be. They haven't played the toughest schedule, the toughest competition. Tyler Van Dyke in this Miami offense is going to be a really big test to kind of see exactly where their defense is at. But so far, they've impressed, and so I'm taking UNC to win the game.
Man, if we want to talk a little bit more, so I could just fire off some takes about the game Miami had won and lost. I also turned the game off, but I turned it back on. I flukily turned it back on when they were doing their like first replay of the fumble. I didn't know that anything was happening. It was just the SC Arizona game went to commercial. Let me just go turn this back on and just like see if there's a fan doing something crazy like upon no context. Like that's why I put the game back on. And it was idiotic of me to even do that in the first place because, like you said, Mario Cristobal is just immune to kneeing the ball. And this isn't the first, second, or third time that something like him not kneeling the ball at the end of the game has happened. I remember watching MTS. It wasn't MTS. Who Miami play week one? Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio. They played Miami, Ohio, and in the Miami Bowl. Dang, how I forget that. And I remember watching the end of the game because I had the under and I was still watching it. It was on Friday night or whatever, so there was nothing else. There like three screens, three games on, so whatever. So I'm still watching it. I'm like, this dude's got Henry Parrish in his RB1, and he's still running the ball. It's like a 38, 40 point game or whatever, and he's still just
Yeah, they were
running
up
the
a ton.
ball. Like, so I'm now having to sweat Parrish breaking off a big run for a touchdown or a fumble going the other way for 6, I lose my under. I'm just thinking, like, how is he not kneeing? And then every Miami game you see, these guys just don't need the ball at the end of the game. And people can't go and say, oh, sometimes it's the backups. And Miami plays like 18 guys at running back. Like they play a running back by committee. They'll still have their starters in and they'll do this. It's just it makes me think back to because I can't remember if I'm correct on this or not, but I feel like in Madden, at some point they'll have one of the commentators say when you go out there and take a kneel, the play that's in everyone's playbook, victory formation. And it's just not in Cristobal's for whatever reason. And it doesn't make sense. It's incomprehensible. It's I feel really bad for the kids. I feel terrible for every player on Miami. None of them deserve this. They didn't play a very good game against Georgia Tech, but nonetheless they went out. They were probably looking ahead to North Carolina, and they went out and they won it. And they had it stripped from them because of coaching malpractice. And I kind of think like if I'm a player in that spot, if I'm a quarterback, am I just faking like I'm tripping and going down to secure the win? A kid's just not going to do that. They're just not.
Yeah.
If I'm the running back, am I just going to like take the handoff and just kind of go down? They're just not going to do that. They would also probably just get ripped to shreds by the coaches for doing that instead of running the play, which is impossible to think about. It's just a fireable offense for everyone that let it happen. Which like I'm not even going to give much analysis for this game because I think that is the analysis. I think that they're just emotionally defeated, and I don't know how you can come back from this. I really just don't. It is so deflating. You were talking about Miami would have had playoff hopes. They don't have that anymore. Their head coach is an absolute buffoon that doesn't deserve his job anymore. The kids are still going to be thinking about the horrifying images of them crying on national television and and being seen as guys that blew a game that they didn't blow. Again, it was the coaches. I think we're all very cognizant of that. I think North Carolina is going to just cruise in this game. I think Drake May and I think Devontae Walker is going to have 2 touchdowns, 100+ receiving yards, a touchdown, 40+. Like, I just think they're going to cruise. -3, -3.5, -4, whatever you could get. I think that's pretty much free. I would also, if you could find good odds to take them to win by double digits, I would also take that. I think UNC could very well go out there, win by 10+, 15+. If it's 20+, I wouldn't be surprised either. I think Miami is mentally defeated, and I would just bank on UNC to run them out the building. As simple as
I
that.
agree. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's something that they can bounce back from that fast in such a big
No.
game on the road.
It could be like a 44-24 kind of game. Like,
Yeah. Um, but another exciting game. USC Notre Dame. Notre Dame is small 2.5 point home favorite. It's really interesting game. Like we said, Notre Dame's season has been nuts, starting in Ireland to being all over the place, playing big games, close games, winning games that they should have lost, losing games they should have won, and now huge game, old school rivalry game. Um, and I think this is really, really interesting game. I think it could go honestly like 100 different ways. So I'm really excited to watch it. I think the key to this game is basically whether Sam Hartman and specifically the play callers at Notre Dame, whether they can exploit how bad this USC defense is. I mean, what we've seen from the USC defense the past few weeks is embarrassing how bad they are. I mean, we saw Colorado against Oregon and how Colorado could barely even get the ball going in the right direction. And then Colorado against USC looks like Colorado's offense did against TCU week 1. Like they were hitting explosive plays and moving the ball up and down the field. And Notre Dame and Sam Hartman looked great the first couple weeks and then had a really tough time against Ohio State's defense. And then ever since then, they've really struggled. And like you said, I think they're probably emotionally just pretty spent at this point. Now they have to get up for another huge game, another super emotional rivalry type game. And I honestly just don't know if they can do it. I don't trust this USC defense. And I think USC is going to get exposed at some point against Washington, against Oregon, and possibly against even, I don't know, I'm not looking at their schedule, but if they have to play Oregon State or Wazoo or against UCLA.
SC second half of the schedule, they have Notre Dame, and then it's Utah, and then it's a combination of Oregon, Washington, Cal, UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA, and if Cam Rising's playing even Utah, like those teams could expose USC's defense. I just can't trust Notre Dame to get up for another game here. And Caleb, as good as Notre Dame's defense has been, I really like Notre Dame's defense, but you saw even against Louisville, like they're worn down too. They're just probably out of gas. And now going against Caleb Williams is just a huge assignment. And I think Caleb Williams is going to do his thing and get his points no matter what. I think they're going to put up 35. And do I trust Notre Dame to go match that even against the USC defense? I just don't. So I'm picking USC in this game. I think they win outright, and I bet them at +2.5 and whatever. I bet them to win the game, whatever you want. I don't think Notre Dame is just on their level.
Yeah, so right now I feel very good about my season predictions of Notre Dame going like 8-4 and SC going 9-3. And this is a game that now is like a win-lose for me. I win with one team, I lose with the other. For our picks, you said this game could go a million different ways, and it really can. I have no clue where to go. I was gonna go SC, and I kind of just went to Notre Dame because I think SC has just been flirting with disaster too much. The ASU game was kind of like a throwaway. Like you have Colorado next, whatever. Then the defense against Colorado just mentally checks out in the second half. Terrible. You can't do that. Arizona, they were lucky to win. They're lucky that that the NCAA and the rules committee don't have brains and made this sport into a 3 overtime or going to a 2 point off. SC's lucky that that happened because it's Caleb Williams against another team in a 2 point off. Who's going to win? Shocker, the team with Caleb Williams won. That's just what happens. They got really lucky in that game. Arizona shot themselves in the foot countless times. Now you're here. Now you have to play at Notre Dame. The physicality in this game, even though Notre Dame's emotionally spent as well, the physicality in this game is going to be tough. And then you have to come back next week and play Utah in another physical game. It's just such a daunting task for SC in the second half of the schedule. I want to take Notre Dame here. So, like, I'm going to take Notre Dame here, but I don't know who's going to win. I have no read on this game. Notre Dame's offense, they're stuck in the Ice Age philosophy. They need to play fast. They need to run the ball a lot. They need to throw downfield a lot. They need to get Mitchell Evans the ball as if he's Brock Bowers. Like, their offense just ain't cooking. And it's not really an indictment on the players. It's more so on the coaching and the play calling. Play fast, play quick, take a bunch of strikes downfield, get Estime cooking and just in that groove, but make sure that the pass game helps set up the run and you're going against this SC defense. So when I have to give you a best bet, I think I lean to Estime going over 87.5 yards, as well as Hartman going over 269.5 passing yards. I think that those are both really solid value bets to take because they're lower numbers against a USC defense where, I mean, if you're a quarterback against this SC defense, your line should probably be at about 300. And if you're a running back, your line should probably be about 95.5, near 100. So Estime at 87.5, like it's a high number, but if we think of this guy as one of the best running backs in the country, if we think of this offensive line as one of the best out there, top 2, 3, if not number one, I don't think that number one, I'd put him at 2 or 3, probably 2. Lean on Estime, go over 87.5. Maybe take him for 100 plus 2 and get plus odds on that. So I would look for those two bets to make.
Yeah, I like those. Going against the USC defense I definitely have no problem with that. And yeah, I have no problem picking Notre Dame. Like I said, I'm going with USC just from an emotional perspective. I think if Cam Rising plays next week is the spot where USC gets caught and Cam Rising beats them again. But
we're going to be
we'll
saying
see.
that 2093, by the way. If Cam Rising plays next week, this team's going to have it out for
him. But yeah, I think maybe Notre Dame is too physical, but maybe USC's offense just explodes and Notre Dame just gives up and USC wins by 20. I could see it, like I said, going a million different ways. So it'll be interesting to watch. I had the Texas A&M Tennessee game on the rundown, but I'm actually skipping it because I don't care about those teams. And we're running long and I want to talk about Oregon, Washington. So I'm just going straight to Oregon, Washington. Washington is 2.5, 3-point favorite, somewhere in there. The total is 67.5. It's the game of the weekend, in my opinion, the game of the year so far. Maybe it will be the game of the regular season, even once the regular season's over. Bo Nix and Michael Penix, 2 top 5 or 6 Heisman candidates. Both of them have been awesome. Both offenses have been awesome. But for both of them, this is going to be by far their toughest game of the year. It's in Washington, which I think is huge. Both of these places are tough places to go play. So I think the home field is worth a lot in this matchup. And Washington having it is pretty massive. And I mean, when you're looking at player storyline matchup to watch, there's a million. We've talked about Michael Penix. We've talked about Rome Odunze already. I think one big thing to look for is, as good as Bo Nix has been this season, when you look at the history of his career, it was a huge thing at Auburn, but it has continued into Oregon a bit. He is not the same quarterback on the road as he is at home. If you look at his home road splits statistically over his entire career, like I said, at Auburn and Oregon, he's a much better quarterback at home. He makes far fewer mistakes at home. So on the road in a huge game, I think Bo Nix is more likely to make mistakes than Michael Penix. Um, when it comes to advantages for Oregon, I do think they have the better defense. I think Washington's defense is improved from what it was last year. I think they did a good job filling in a couple pieces on their defense, and they've been well coached. They've done a really good job so far this season. But this is going to be by far their toughest test. And I do think Oregon's defense is a bit better. And I mean, everybody knows I'm picking Washington in this game. Everybody knows I'm think Michael Penix is going to throw for 400 yards, and him and Roma Dunze and Jalen McMillan are going to put on a show on the national stage in the biggest game of the year. And everybody's going to fall in love with this team as much as I have over the past year and a half. That's what I think is going to happen. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think it's going to be a really close back and forth game, lead changes back and forth. And I think at the end of the day, the difference is just going to be Bo Nix maybe makes one or two mistakes, maybe a bad interception, bad fumble, that Michael Penix does not make those mistakes. And I think that's going to be the difference in the game. But I'm betting Washington -2.5, and I'm betting the over. I just can't see there being a lot of stops in this game, and I see there being a ton of explosive plays. So I think Washington wins, and it goes over, and it's like a 42-38 type of game.
What number did you get on the over?
67.5, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's like a 44-38 kind of game. Is that what you said, by the way? I forgot what score you
66.5 is the over. I got 66.5.
What
I
score
said
was it?
42-38.
Okay, I said 44-38. So we're very in line there.
Yeah, close.
I also like Washington winning. It's really going to come down to which defense just gets a key stop and propels their offense to possibly getting a double-digit lead early and not squandering it. If you are planning on, I think that there's a really good opportunity here in the Heisman market. If you think Washington wins, maybe yes, take them, but also maybe you take Penix to win the Heisman at +200, because he's just going to, if they win this game, you know he's going to go off and he's going to explode. He's probably going to get close to like a +110 favorite after this win. Mm-hmm. If you like Oregon to win, yes, take their money line, but also Bo Nix is saying that like +600 win the Heisman. You should probably be taking that, because if Oregon's going to win, they're going to need an explosive Bo Nix. He's going to go off. And he might just be the favorite to win the Heisman if Oregon wins this game at around like +200 or something. So I would look into those. I like the over here as well, but yeah, I like Washington. I have Washington #1. I have Oregon #3. I have Georgia #2. I think that these are two of the best three teams in the country. I cannot wait to watch this game. I wish it was at night. Golly, I wish that this was 4:30 Pacific on ABC. Afternoon game for this one is just so.
I know.
Oh, man, what a shame. Could have had an insane atmosphere at night. Beautiful seeing at Husky Stadium. But at the end of the day, I just cannot wait to see a really, really good show. And that's what it's going to be. And if you're watching this game, just know Washington, they have the best passing attack in the country. Like everywhere you look, Jalen Polk is your third receiving option. Jalen McMillan is your second receiving option. Roma Dunze, #1 option. You have Michael Penix orchestrating the thing with offensive gurus and Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. It's just so nasty and a really solid offensive line. Yeah, man. I mean, coming into this season, I tried to warn people. I tried to educate people like, hey, if you're that high on USC, you need to be higher on Washington. It's just USC with a better defense. It essentially is. Like Washington has as good of an offense as SC. They do it in different ways, but Washington just has a more solid defense that you could rely on. So, I mean, that annoys me that SC got more preseason praise, got more praise until pretty much the Arizona game. Like, whatever. I guess I'm done trying to teach people. Just know Washington, Oregon, the winner of this game better get to the playoff. We deserve it as Pac-12 guys. We I hope that these teams play in Vegas. I hope that this is the Pac-12 championship rematch.
Me
We
too.
need it. Hey man,
Yeah,
best case scenario, Washington wins this game, goes undefeated. Oregon loses this game, wins out. Oregon wins the Pac-12 championship. Oregon and Washington both get into the playoff. That's best case scenario.
I think so too. I think they deserve. I think if any conference is getting two teams in, it's the only one that will have two deserving teams to
Yeah,
get into the playoff.
you get like a 2 seed or a 3 seed for one of them, and then a 4 for the other. Let's make some chaos happen. Let's get Washington, Oregon 3 times in one season. National championship. Why not?
Why not? Yeah, I think both of these teams beat USC. So I think it's going to be the winner is definitely on a path to the college football playoff. Um, and yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be an unbelievable game. And I'll just say right now, we're going to talk about our favorite bet of the weekend. My favorite bet of the weekend is Washington, -2.5. I think they win the game, and I think they have a chance to maybe pull away. Like I said, I think it'll be back and forth, but I think they have a chance to maybe pull away late, and win the game by 7 or 10, even though I picked it to be a 4-point game. But maybe go up 10 late, and Oregon can come down and backdoor, and they win by 3. But I love Washington. That's my favorite bet of the weekend.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I said UNC might win by like 15 plus, so I think it goes hand in hand to say that them -3 would be one of the best ones. The Oregon State UCLA under 54, I think, is also best one of the best ones to take. If you're looking to take something that we haven't talked about, perhaps Illinois, Maryland under 51. I just don't think Illinois really has anything at all on offense. I think their defense is solid enough to prevent Maryland from going absolutely crazy. Or maybe you just look into a first half under in that game because I don't like that Maryland team. I just don't. I don't think there's really any redeeming qualities with that team. I love Loxley as a coach and everything, but that team is just so underwhelming to me. So possibly a first half under there or a game under. I don't know. It's like a 31-14 kind of game. How many points is that?
Yeah, I think it stays pretty low scoring. I think it stays close. I think it's going to be a bit of a letdown spot for Maryland last week. They had a chance. They were up early on Ohio State, had a chance to kind of and just totally collapsed and fell apart in
Yep.
hideous fashion. So I think maybe they come into this one a little bit deflated and a little bit like, that was our big shot and we blew it. So I like those. And then just a quick underdog money line pick of the weekend. I already said one I really like, and that's USC over Notre Dame. I do think USC goes and wins that game. They're plus 118 on the money line. That's pretty short. So I picked one more, and I went with BYU over TCU, plus 175 on the BYU money line. TCU has now lost back-to-back games as favorites. They lost to Iowa State in West Virginia. This Iowa State team is really bad. Losing to them is showing kind of where TCU's at. And now Chandler Morris is going to be out. I think it's just a mess in TCU right now. And I think they're just kind of calling it quits on this season. Whereas BYU has had a pretty good start to their first season in the Big 12. I'm not a total believer in their team, but I think this week they're playing well. They're coming off a bye, which is also really helpful. I think they'll have a great game plan going into this game. We've already seen them go on the road once and pull off an upset against Arkansas this season. So I think we've kind of seen that BYU can be the team to go on the road and upset somebody, and TCU can be the team at home that doesn't show up and gets upset. They did it against Colorado. They've done it the last 2 weeks. So I'm just going to keep picking TCU to get upset until they show me a reason not to.
Yeah, that was going to be mine as well. So I love that pick. I think
Perfect.
BYU's just been very, very undervalued. I think some other ones to possibly look at. Obviously, the Memphis one that we talked about. I kind of like A&M too. Tennessee being a 3-point favorite there kind of says it all. That
I
Tennessee
was going
team
to
is
say Texas A&M
extremely
was my
overrated.
yeah.
Yeah,
Texas A&M was going to be my pick if we talked about that game.
yeah.
So I agree.
And then I think Army's good value at home against Troy. And then the like a really gross one, but it's good value, good odds, plus 250 pit money line against Louisville. The second, I mean, Louisville's schedule just reeks. It stinks out loud, but that team is just, they are not the 14th best team in the country, man. They are not as good as they lead you to believe because of beating down on that Notre Dame team. I think this is a very opportunistic spot for an awful, awful Pitt team. There is nothing about this that says Pitt should win this game except college football. This Louisville team was not impressive against Georgia Tech or Indiana or NC State. Their best effort was by far against a depleted and just not there Notre Dame team. If this Louisville team goes undefeated, I'm going to be sick. Because, I mean, what an opportunistic final 6 games they have. You have Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Virginia. And then that Miami team, that Kentucky team, and a Duke team that won't have Riley Leonard, we think. Pitt,
Yeah.
please put an end to this.
Yeah. I bet Pitt plus 7.5. I believe in tight end Phil Jerkovich going and picking up some touchdown catches in the red zone this week. It's going to be magical. So I like that too. But Liam, thanks for coming on. As always, as anytime you and I get on one of these episodes, we end up just talking about different college football things for
Yeah,
way
we
too
do.
long. So thank you to everybody that has stuck with us and listened to all this. It's going to be an awesome weekend. And do you just want to let people know where they can follow you and all your accounts really quick?
Yeah, just follow me, no context CFB on the Twitters. There's also T Portal CFB. We between like clips and highlights and stuff, and then at Blutman27 is my personal Twitter. I just really use it to tweet more about sports and stuff, college football, hockey, tennis, etc. Uh, just yeah, those the 3 accounts on the Twitter sphere that you can follow my stuff at.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm sure we'll do it again sometime in the future. And yeah, thanks to everybody for listening and go Huskies.